Okay, this is rule number 6 from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. Rule number 6 is titled, Set Your House in Perfect Order Before You Criticize the World. This is the first part of rule number 6, which is called a religious problem. It does not seem reasonable to describe the young man who shot 20 children and 6 staff members at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012 as a religious person. This is equally true for the Colorado theater gunmen and the Columbine High School killers. But these murderous individuals had a problem with reality that existed at a religious depth, as one of the members of the Columbine duo wrote. The human race isn't worth fighting for, only worth killing. Give the earth back to the animals. They deserve it infinitely more than we do. Nothing means anything anymore. People who think such things view being itself as inequitable and harsh to the point of corruption, and human being in particular as contemptible. They appoint themselves supreme adjudicators of reality and find it wanting. They are the ultimate critics, the deeply cynical writer continues. If you recall your history, the Nazis came up with the final solution to the Jewish problem. Kill them all. Well, in case you haven't figured it out, I say, kill mankind. No one should survive. For such individuals, the world of experience is insufficient and evil, so to hell with everything. What is happening when someone comes to think in this manner? A great German play, Faust, a tragedy, written by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, addressed this issue. The play's main character, a scholar named Heinrich Faust, trades his immoral soul to the devil, Mephistopheles, in return. In return, he receives whatever he desires while still alive on earth. In Goethe's play, Mephistopheles is the eternal adversary of being. He has a central defining credo. I am the spirit who negates, and rightly so, for all that comes to be deserves to perish wretchedly. It were better nothing would begin, thus everything that you term sin, destruction, evil represent, that is my proper element. Interesting. Goethe considered this hateful sentiment so important, so key to the central element of vengeful human destructiveness, that he had metaphorically say it a second time, phrased somewhat differently in part 2 of the play, written many years later. People think often in a metaphysical manner, although they seldom act upon their thoughts as brutally as the mass murderers of school, college, and theater. Whenever we experience injustice, real or imagined, whenever we encounter tragedy or fall prey to the machinations of others, whenever we experience the horror and pain of our own apparent arbitrary limitations, the temptation to question being and then to curse it rouses foully from the darkness. Why must innocent people suffer so terribly? What kind of bloody, horrible planet is this anyway? I remember having those thoughts when I was a child. Like, why don't I have parents? Life is, in truth, very hard. Everyone is destined for pain and slated for destruction. Sometimes suffering is clearly the result of personal faults such as willful blindness, poor decision-making, or malevolence. In such cases, when it appears to be self-inflicted, it may even seem just. People get what they deserve, you might contend. That's cold comfort, however, even when true. Sometimes if those who are suffering change their behavior, their lives would unfold less tragically. But human control is limited. Susceptibility to despair, disease, aging, and death is universal. In the final analysis, we do not appear to be the architects of our own fragility. Whose fault is it, then? People who are very ill, or worse, who have a sick child, will inevitably find themselves asking this question, whether they are religious believers or not. The same is true of someone who finds his short-sleeved shirt caught in the gears of a giant bureaucracy, who is suffering through a tax audit, or fighting an interminable lawsuit or divorce. It's not only the obvious suffering who are tormented, but the need to blame someone or something for the intolerable state of their being. At their height of his fame, influence, and creative power, for example, the towering Leo Tolstoy himself began to question the value of human existence. He reasoned in this way. My position was terrible. I knew that I could find nothing in the way of rational knowledge except a denial of life, and in faith I could find nothing except a denial of reason. And this was even more impossible than a denial of life. According to rational knowledge, it followed that life is evil, and people know it. They do not have to live, yet they have lived, and they do live, just as I myself had lived, even though I had known for a long time that this life is meaningless and evil. Try as he might, Tolstoy could identify only four means of escaping from such thoughts. One was retreating into childlike ignorance of the problem. Another was pursuing mindless pleasure. The third was continuing to drag out a life that is evil and meaningless, knowing beforehand that nothing can come of it. He identified this particular form of escape with weakness. The people in this category know that death is better than life, but they do not have the strength to act rationally and quickly put an end to the delusion by killing themselves. Only the fourth and final mode of escape involves strength and energy. It consists of destroying life. Once one has realized that life is evil and meaningless, Tolstoy relentlessly followed his thoughts. Only unusually strong and logically consistent people act in this manner. Having realized all the stupidity of the joke that is being played on us and seeing that the blessings of the dead are greater than those of the living, that it's better not to exist, they act and put an end to their stupid joke. And they use any means of doing it: a rope around the neck, water, a knife in the heart, a train. Tolstoy wasn't pessimistic enough. The stupidity of the joke being played on us does not merely motivate suicide. It motivates murder, mass murder, often followed by suicide. This is a far more effective existential protest. By June of 2016, unbelievable as it may seem, there have been 1,000 mass killings. Wow. Defined as 4 or more people shot in a single incident, excluding the shooter. Wow. In the U.S., in 1,260 days, in the U.S. in 1,260 days, there have been 1,000 mass killings in the U.S. in 1,260 days. That's one event on 5 of every 6 days for more than 3 years. Everyone says, we don't understand. How can we still pretend that? Tolstoy understood more than a century ago. The ancient authors of the biblical story of Cain and Abel understood as well, more than 20 centuries ago. They described murder as the first act of post-Edenic history, and not just murder, but Frederical murder. Murder not only of someone innocent, but of someone ideal and good, and murder done consistently in spite of the creator of the universe. I'm thinking of the recent death of XXXTentacion. I know there's not a lot of crossover between Jordan Peterson and XXXTentacion, but it was a really tragic, senseless death of somebody that was 20 years old. Just want to put that out there. Rest in peace. The ancient authors of the biblical story of Cain and Abel understood as well more than 20 centuries ago. They described murder as the first act of post-Edenic history, and not just murder, but frantical murder. Murder not only of someone innocent, but of someone ideal and good. That's frantical murder, fratricidal murder. And murder done consciously in spite of the creator of the universe. Today's killers tell us the same thing in their own words. Who would dare say that this is not the worm at the core of the apple? But we will not listen, because the truth cuts too close to the bone. Even for a mind as profound as that of the celebrated Russian author, Tolstoy, there was no way out. How can the rest of us manage when a man of Tolstoy's stature admits defeat? For years he hid his guns from himself and would not walk with a rope in hand in case he hanged himself. How can a person who is awake avoid outrage in the world? That was from Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. That was from the very beginning of rule number 6. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. There's a lot of memes out there of Jordan Peterson, clean your room. Maybe they're going to touch on this clean your room aspect of his teachings. If you enjoyed that reading, click the thumbs up button, or more importantly, click the subscribe button. And also send us over. My name's Gregory Brandt. I'm also a writer. And my book is called Gonzo Education. It's available on Amazon right now for free. Go and check it out. Thanks.